So this is a view of the Riesling main vineyard. Pat's got about 45 acres. There's Jake. Cap Pfeffer. So we're here out in Wirz Vineyard. This is Pat Wirz. Pat, I just wanted you to let everyone know a little bit about your vineyard, when it was planted. We're standing here in the Riesling.
Yeah, this
vineyard.
is Riesling, and we have about 5 or 6 different varieties. We've got Cabernet Pfeffer, which Nicole buys from me, and we have Zinfandel, and the Riesling, of course. I have some Carignan, and then we have a new planting of Grenache, which is planted 2 years ago, I think. The Riesling here was planted in 1964.
And what do you think about this year?
I think, Nicole, we're going to be just fine. In February was, as everybody knows, it was extremely dry, but we had kind of a miracle March. And our normal rainfall in this valley here is about 16 inches. We've so far this year have had about 14, 13 and a half, 14. So it's going to be on the dry side of normal, but it's not going to be an extreme drought. If we wouldn't have had the March that we had, we would be in real trouble. But I have the capability of irrigating it with sprinklers, but I just assume not.
Yeah. For
several reasons that I think it makes a better bottle of wine if we don't crop as much as we could with the extra water and things, and plus the expense of the irrigating it, and there's several other things. The question about the bud.
Yeah, so Pat, I was just noticing how here we are, April 19th?
19th.
And you're just having bud break.
Yeah. Because this valley is about 1,000 feet. We're a little bit cooler than a lot of the places they raise grapes on the coast, and that makes us about 2 or 3 weeks behind on our bud break, and also that makes us later in the fall with our harvest because of the late bud break, and it's because of the air temperature, and for the most part that's the main difference between, like, say, here in the Salinas Valley.
And that's, we're at about 1,000 foot
Yes.
elevation.
Yeah.
And
the mountains around us are about 2,000 feet.
Yep. And this, we're kind of on the east side of
we are.
the Gabilons.
Yeah.
Which also, and then you get pretty steady breezes. I'd say.
Yeah, the way our typical summer is that our temperature ranges anywhere from 100, 105 at the hottest, down to about maybe 80. And the way it works is that we'll get 3 or 4 days of fog, which comes in from the Salinas Valley, Monterey, Salinas Valley, and then that'll kind of go away after 2 or 3 days, and then we won't have any fog for a week or 10 days, and then we'll get the fog will roll back in. And our air temperature, even though it gets real hot or fairly warm during the day, our average temperature, even in the summertime, will drop back to in the 40s, high 40s, 50s, even in the summertime. So that way the vines can kind of cool down, recuperate during the evening and at night, and then warm back up during the daytime. Unlike the places like the San Joaquin Valley and some of the grape growing regions in the state where it gets hot and it stays hot all the time.
Right.
I had a neighbor over here a few years ago. He ran a couple of year experiment on his own, and our temperatures in here and climate in the evenings and everything is real close to what he thought the Carneros region is up in around Sassoon and in
Yep.
that country.
Yep.
So
That makes sense.
yeah,
And I was just noticing you leave a lot of buds, extra buds, because of
frost.
Because of frost damage.
Yeah.
It's pretty susceptible because it is so cool.
yeah,
Here.
we leave more buds probably than we really should if we didn't have the chance of frost. And the other thing is too is that these are old vines, and each bud doesn't produce as much as they would on a young vine.
I know, you've got the tiniest clusters.
And part of that's because it's dry farmed and some other things. But the main reason we leave the extra buds is because of the frost. And most years, we haven't had any this year, but I don't want to jinx it, because most years we do get a little frost damage.
Yeah,
And if I didn't leave the extra buds, why, we wouldn't get a crop.
right.
Plain and simple.
And can you tell us a little bit more about was it your dad that?
Well, my dad
that
bought
farms this?
the original piece of ground here, the original parcel, in 1948 when he after he got out of the Army in the Second World War. And then he and I bought a couple other parcels that don't have vineyard on them. And then in 1983, we bought this piece of ground from Almaden Vineyards. My dad in the 60s worked for Almaden, and he just happened to be the guy that planted and started this Riesling piece. And 30 years later, 25 years later, he and I bought it. So when the corporation kind of started to change a little bit, and they broke a bunch of it up, and it was right next. This parcel was right next to the original piece of ground, so we bought it then. That was the main reason we bought it. We didn't necessarily buy it for the vineyard, but we bought it because it was adjoining the rest of the ranch. And we kept the vineyard. And well, here we are 35 years later, and we still have the vineyard. So.
Yeah. Great. One thing I wanted to mention, and Kai, if you want to take a little more of a look at the soil, it's mainly decomposed granite and some limestone. If we can find some.
Well, this is a good example of a little piece of decomposed granite, and then some of these whiter rocks in here, like that, is the limestone. So you have a combination of both, and I think that's part of the reason that vines have always done pretty well in this valley. I mean, all of these vines are all planted on their own root.
Yep.
And that was the way the old guys planted them. Nowadays, with some of the diseases of phylloxera and the nematode load and one thing like another like that, why it's kind of risky if you plant a vineyard on its own root, but we've always had pretty good luck doing it that way here. So.
So this is the hillside where Pat grows Cabernet Pfeffer, a variety I've been working with since I started SARE in 2012. Pat was the grower that talked me into trying this variety. Pat, can you tell us a little bit about Cabernet Pfeffer?
Well, Cabernet Pfeffer is a variety. For a long time, we thought it was a cross, but there was some petiole samples taken, and originally this variety comes from the French Alps, and it was imported into this country. As far as I know, there was 3 people that were instrumental in getting this variety started in the United States. One was Professor Bialetti from UC Davis back in the turn of the last century. There was a Charles Pfeffer, who the variety here in the United States is named for. And then John Orwell, Dr. Orwell, John Orwell's father, was a German physician, and he had a vineyard in the neighbor's ranch over here. And from what I understand, there were 3 original plantings, one here in Cienega, and one at UC Davis, which has been torn out, and then Mr. Pfeffer, Charles Pfeffer, had a vineyard up in the Santa Clara Valley, and that's been torn out and it's now houses. So that's the reason this particular variety, is kind of unique to the Cienega Valley. There's a few other plantings in other places, but they all originally came from cuttings that came from this valley.
And this was planted 1924, you're
This
thinking?
was planted in 1924-ish, 23, 24, 25. I've got a block of it on the home ranch that was planted in 1903. And the vineyard that Dr. Orwell had now belongs to Ken Gemelli, and they've got a planting of the original planting they don't have anymore, but they replanted a block in the 20s or 30s, I think. Mm-hmm. And then I think Pat DeRosa's got some, and then Ann's Vineyard has some.
Yep.
And I think there's a few other plantings scattered around, but there isn't a lot planted.
No.
Because it's kind of a unique variety, and it grows pretty well where there's kind of a cool-ish climate, but in the valley, over in the San Joaquin Valley, it's way too hot because it has a tendency to sunburn.
Yeah.
And Nicole, as a winemaker, can attest to that.
I can totally attest to that.